don't feel in focus in my head.
I feel like I'm out of focus. Well, it's funny. We walk downstairs in the hotel. He's staying in a really posh place. He decides to stay at the Nilo.
Is this posh?
It's a decent sized room for New York City now, because mind you, like London, you remember the old
yeah.
How small were those rooms?
Yeah, that's true.
Until they built the Metropole and those bigger places that was like, wow, like a room like this in London's like ridiculously huge. This is...
I was just saying earlier, when I was looking out the window, you can see the Hudson, and I keep thinking of the famous
I want to
film and the pilot, the crash, and keep thinking fly past.
You're talking about Sully?
Yeah, Sully.
That was in the wrong river. Was it Hudson or East River?
I thought it was this one.
So I'm pretty much off too.
Is it not this one?
I remember. Can you put that in again?
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to say it out loud. So who's joining in? I decided, instead of doing this on a Tuesday, I said we'll do this on Good Friday, and met up with one of my good friends that I know forever and ever and ever. The most talented, incomparable, one half of Full Intention, Michael Gray. He's got a lot of history.
Too much.
and I'm gonna delve into it with everybody, and we're gonna hit them up and have you people. That's why I set up my laptop so I can watch the questions, and then we can hit Mike with some of the stuff. And let me get on Facebook so we can see what's going on.
I don't read the stuff in London. I haven't done the tourist stuff there. I was dragging him. We've been, oh my God.
He was telling me before.
We did everything.
He remembers 18 years ago coming in and working with Blaze. That was one of the first things, because we were talking about, behind me is Lincoln Center, so you have an idea where we are in the city of New York. He would come and stay on the west side, and then get picked up, I guess Josh or Kevin Hedge.
Yeah, it's Josh and Kevin
Tell
Hedge.
us about
They
that.
always pick us up in their, they'd always say, we'll be there about 12. They rocked up about 2.
Time? Yeah, that's what I say. What time they actually come?
Oh, it was amazing, isn't it? Amazing experience. Just going over there, working with them, and just working with so many big house artists. I think that was the fun part. And
was that with Defected at the time?
Yeah, well, Simon Dunmore was managing us at the time, and Simon came over
right,
as well. So
we
spent about 12-13 days. So it was quite nice to be working in New York. That's quite an unusual thing to do.
Were you working in New York or working in New Jersey?
Well, a bit of both. Yeah, Strictly Rhythm Studios in New York, and then New Jersey.
Downtown.
Yeah. No. It's good. And one day sightseeing we allowed ourselves. John and I allowed us one day sightseeing. That's it at the beginning. So we done as much as we could cram in one day.
Just one day.
Mm.
How often were you coming over at that time to do session work with those guys?
Well, we worked every single day, flat out. So we didn't take a break at all. And then we went to Body and Soul. We had a break then Sunday evening, and trying to think the other things we were doing. But it was really good. It's crazy, really, as well, that the fact that we went up the Twin Towers.
What was that like?
That was you could
tell people around the world about that one.
It's very sad to think that a year later, because this was about 2000,
right?
Or just before 1999. A year later, that was all gone, and we'd already, felt as if you'd been up there. It's very strange, very surreal. But we want to go pop down there if we can tomorrow.
Yeah, you should, because they actually have the plots. And they made it into pools of where the footprints were of each building.
Oh, wow.
It's all granite, it's beautiful, it's surreal and sad.
Yeah.
Because all the names are etched. They have the museum. If you're going to try to do the museum, that's not easy because you got to get reservation tickets. You can't just go up and buy them. The waiting list is ridiculous, especially on the weekend. Here we are. We're live.
Uh-huh.
Steve Reed, I'm in a bar informant with the Bump Boys DJing, so can't watch.
We'll let him off.
We'll let you off, Steve, on that one. Jamie Grant, everybody's tuning in. Lisa Crampton, hello, everybody. Back in the 90s, I walked into Bill Brewster's office, for those that remember, and he used to work for DMC.
That's right, yeah.
And he hands me the promo vinyl in those days, where they actually had free goods to give us. And he says to me, Lenny, I got this new group. They're called Full Intention. So I joked around. I says, you mean Good Intention? He said, no. And that was the I Love America. I'll never forget when I first got that vinyl. And it's got to be around, I don't know if it was 94, 95.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning stages of Full Intention.
95, yeah.
Okay, so take us back to that era.
John and I wanted to make out that we wanted to, at the time we had a group called Hustlers Convention.
That's it, and you were doing remixes for
and
that.
We were doing bits and pieces like that, but we weren't getting to the right people we wanted to. And we thought, how about if we just reinvent ourselves, change the names of Full Intention, pump up the sound just a little bit more, and then bring the record in from New York. So Bill pressed it up. Bill Brewster pressed the record up over here.
Yeah.
We changed our names. I was, got to try and think what I was now. John was Herb Scott.
Right.
I won't say why, but he was Herb Scott, and I was Curtis Silvers. I thought they sounded great American names, at the
that was
time.
the era. That was the era where the English were looking at all the American names.
Absolutely.
See, there was a time, even Grant Nelson used to make records, and he would make names like Herb Santiago, like Puerto Rican last names.
That's it, yeah.
and every week he have a new record out, and now I didn't know that you did that. I always thought it was, Hustlers Convention was Full Intention. I knew who it was.
Yeah, we purposely did it, and it was incredible because we saw a whole new a whole new load of DJs suddenly getting behind this record. Now, whether it's because they actually thought it was better than one of our old Full Intention Hustlers Convention records, or whether they just liked it because it was fresh.
The Patrick Gervais thing, the I Love America.
Yeah,
well, to be honest, it was really good. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was really good. So let's just say for that. But the way it was presented was something. The way Bill prompted to us, because he was good at that.
Well, if you see on the credits, if anybody's got the original, over here, the import version, which is it'll have the pink label and the sugar daddy sort of character. Bill is down as the Reverend Reginald Pugh. That is from I can't remember which church he's from, so it's quite funny. So we always have that joke going, but Bill done a great job, and Nick Gordon Brown in the UK was he was A&R in the track from that end, so we had a lot of help with that, but it worked out well for us.
So pre the Hustlers Convention, going back, when does this production for you begin? When does this life of the music industry start?
Before...
Just you. Even before John, when does it begin for you?
Well, I started DJing when I was 12.
I saw those pictures.
I'd say professionally, semi-professionally, because I was obviously at school. But every month I'd done an under 16s disco at my church hall, and my parents helped to organise it. My dad was very instrumental. We had 110 kids every month, and I built up my kit from that. And so by the time I got to 16s, I was doing weddings and lots of things, that type of thing. And then I started working in bars, and then I was working in clubs in London when I was 18.
Okay, so at 15, 16, what were some of the big records that you were playing in that
Biggest
time?
records then would be records like Southern Freeze.
So it's electro era.
Just before, it'd be
a little bit after, before,
Edwin Starr,
Contact,
all those sort of records. Anita Wall, Ring My Bell.
Well, let's not say how old he is.
Yeah. Well, now I've let that out. Yeah.
But everybody comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
There's always the beginning. So that was your beginning. So then.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that, to me, if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't have been able to pull on those sort of ideas. Even for the records I do now, you have to have that history. So to me, to make records, you have to have one foot in the past and then one foot in the future to kind of get the balance. But I look back very fondly on those days. It's good.
First professional gig now? When was that? Professional, not high school. I'm talking first professional gig in I was going to say New York, London. I mean
London. Yeah, it was a park in Kensington. I was 18. And there was about 100 DJs. We were all standing there. And there was people like Judge Jules there. He doesn't know that I was at the same audition as him.
No!
I've never told him that.
Judge, where are you?
Yeah.
Call in. Call Michael's phone.
And I remember they're like at the back, all these DJs around me going, "Do you see who's going up? That's Judge Jules. He said he's on Solar Radio or something. I think it was Solar or something like that." And they said, "Oh, he's really good." And he'd done his audition, just blew everyone away. I was like, "Oh, he's really good."
Did he play his trumpet?
No, he didn't. No, but he was good. And that was the days when you had to pick up the microphone and speak
and talk, right?
and mix. So you had to do both. You couldn't just do one without the other. And yeah, he's very good. But I was lucky enough. I got the audition, and I got a Monday night there. Then I also got 2 nights at a place called Tropicana Beach. So that would have been in 1984, 85, something like that. And,
I want to be real. Around that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right after Funhouse closed. That was would be our electro scene when Funhouse was just ending right around that time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So happy times. It was good, very good.
Did you ever dream of that moment, moving forward, that you would have become the record producer, or it was just a matter of playing records? And
at that time, I was just very much into learning how to mix. You become like a hermit. Every night you're practicing, because obviously you were mixing with vinyl, as you know, and vinyl, yeah,
with needles,
yeah,
and turntables. Which turntables did you have?
I actually had these turntables. They're called Technics SP15s, and they had a digital readout of the front, and they had a plus and minus. So they were actually more expensive than the 1200s. Just for the actual turntable itself, forget the arm, that would have been around £200-300. That's back then. So that'd be equivalent to about £1,000.
That's a lot of money for a turntable.
He was like broadcasting.
Yeah, it was broadcasting.
I was lucky enough to have these. I worked at a hi-fi shop. This is between 16 and 18. This guy came into his hi-fi shop and said, "Would you do a part exchange?" And he had 2 of these in his hands. And my governor said, I could do that.
Oh wow!
I was very lucky. I don't know where they came from, to be honest with you.
Those were the broadcast ones.
Yeah.
I don't remember them having pitch on them.
Yeah, there was 2. Ones had pitch, and some did, and some didn't.
Because some radio stations I went to didn't have pitch.
Yeah.
They were straight up at 0 lock.
That's right. Well, this actually had the pitch.
So you had the button like that,
but
right?
What was really good, when you had to mix from records that were 4 bars and the drums started going out of time, because even the drum machines then didn't keep perfect time.
Oh hell no! Nothing kept time.
Yeah, and I would actually know what percentage to speed up the records and slow them down at the certain bits. And that's how, because obviously when I started working for Disco Mix Club and I started mixing for them when I was about 19, that's when the bug came in.
Let's clarify DMC. Dan Prince, of course, is our friend now.
Yeah,
What's his father's name? Because now
Tony Prince.
Tony Prince, for those that know, and that would have been the time when he would have been going to see Michael. Would have been Tony Prince in those days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Tony and Christine, that's Dan's. They were, very good to me and took me on, and I started mixing once a month for them. And obviously I was introduced to Disco Mix Club by a guy called Les Adams, who a lot of people might know as LA Mix back in the day.
Yeah.
And Les was kind of my mentor, really, in all honesty. Him and Paul DeCane and Alan Coulthard, a few guys like that.
See, now I always thought DiscoNet was the same.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
No.
It was Tony Prince's thing was totally separate.
Yeah.
Especially when DiscoNet ended, I thought for sure that was the same company.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was like, no. And they used to do those long 12-inch mixes, and they would hire guys like from, anybody, Bobby DJ Cotadoro to The Animal, all the New York people of those days.
Yeah.
And these would be guys who they would get the masters of, say, Madonna or something, whatever record, and they would do their mixes only for DMC or DiscoNet, which is saying the DMC. Now I remember DMC was doing it.
I do remember DiscoNet.
But that was an American thing. And then when DMC started, I says, "Oh, they must have been the same." And then later I found out it was not the same.
Right.
Not the same.
Yeah. It was a good period and a lot of learning how these records, and you start remixing these records and you get into it, you start getting the multi-tracks. I remember having Chic Good Times, and then you realise how simple those records are. Simple from the fact that there's not loads of parts,
Right.
but they sound massive when they play on the dance floor. But you can just tell there's a lot of time and effort gone in to make these records to sound as good as they do. And that's how I took that on as a blueprint. Less is more. So not having loads of things in your mix, just making sure if you've got a bass line, make sure it's the best bass line you can possibly have, even if it means going through about 20, 30 different bass sounds until you get the right one. And so you just end up with something that's quite chunky.
So what was your cresting moment for you as the producer DJ? What was that moment that changed your life? And professionally speaking.
Producer DJ.
Or I mean, let's just say DJ to the next step.
Yeah, the next, I think going from DMC, and then the next step, I was lucky enough to be asked to mix this thing called the Brits 1990 with a guy called Jonathan King, who was
this is
and it was a charity record. It got to number 2 in the UK charts.
Okay.
And to me, that's where I'd gone as far as I could with mixing other people's records together. And that was it. And I thought the next thing is the remixing, then the producing, and I think the changes started happening. We started off with a group called Greed. That was John and myself. Then Hustlers Convention, and we were learning our craft really. And then
honing,
yeah.
like
and
a
then
blacksmith.
the full intention. I think it was I Love America. Kind of everything came together, and when you get people who you looked up to, DJs around the world, you looked up to, Armand van Helden, to whoever it is, Tony Humphries, and you find out they're all playing your record. Bill's going,
who's playing your record?
And it's like the biggest buzz ever. And then obviously you get Pete Tong playing it, and Judge Jules, and all the people that you then start thinking, I think at long last it's starting to turn.
The crest.
Yeah, because as you know, there's a lot of frustration goes on. You work for years and years and years, and people say to me, I get frustrated.
You hear that, everyone? You hear that? Let me say that again.
Yeah, I mean, people come to me, they get very frustrated. They've been working for years and years, not getting anywhere. But that was exactly how it was for John and I. We had to keep banging down the doors, and and the main thing is finding your own sound. Once you've found your own sound, that's it. It's try not to copy anybody else's sound. And once you've done that,
okay, so let's go back to cassettes era and demos. What was it like for you running around London as a young guy before Hustlers Convention really hit and full intention and bringing demos around?
Yeah.
I was a deal with A&R people. People see they don't know that.
Yeah.
Saying an email, that's easy.
I know. The funny thing is when you took your cassettes or DATs in, it's quite. We knew certain A&R people, certain record companies, and we knew what they were going to do if they didn't like the record. They'd pick up Music Week and they'd start reading it, and you could see it opening as they were getting more and more disinterested in your records. And you have to, and you think, oh no, it's happening. He's going to pick up that copy, and he's going to, And
how about this one? You have anything else?
Yeah, that's the classic. Anything else?
You got anything else? You're like, this is my best piece of thing ever, right?
But I learned something from that, and I realised, the best way to do it is let the DJs decide, not the A&R guys in these record companies, because the DJs, they're the ones who've got their pulse. And back then you'd have DJs, fixers, I suppose you could call them, and there's another word for them, I can't think what they are now. But they would be
tastemakers.
Tastemakers.
The tastemakers is your first lot. That's a lot.
Best thing of all, John and I did, was press up white label vinyl and get that to the record shops with that record, and the record companies then start coming because the buzz starts. You get one person plays it on radio, and before you know it, they will start. And as long as you got your telephone number on there back then, that was it.
That is true, because Roger Sanchez, we were at a panel years ago, and Roger said this to a whole. To all the members sitting at, I think it was WMC, this is going back. He said, I got this demo, nothing on it, and it was incredible, and nobody could sign it.
Yeah, it's true.
And it happens.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you guys. When you're sending out your records, make sure you put the metadatas in, because things do get lost, even as a WAV file MP3.
Yeah.
But could you imagine that? Could you imagine actually going out and believing in yourself, and now having to spend about 700 to 1,000 pounds
That's how much it
get
was.
mastering done,
Costs
right?
a lot of money.
Get mastering done, and then make about 500 copies, and then go around. We used to call to the with van service. Used to call. We used to call one stop.
Yeah.
Take them in the back of your car and go stop by, and then do what they call POD, paid on delivery.
Yeah.
And friends of ours that we both know used to be those guys that would pick the records up. They're at the labels now.
Yeah.
But he said something interesting: making a white label, spending the money, and believing in what you're doing.
Yeah, it's got to believe.
And taking it to the DJs and making that investment. And you don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, it's just a gamble.
It's all a gamble.
But if you believe in it so much, you will get through with it. I mean, the guys who used to take our records in the vans, a very good friend, Dean and Andy. Now they were called A&D Press. Dean went on to move to LA, and he now looks
17 Marriott?
No, he looks after Deadmau5
Oh, right, yeah.
and Calvin Harris. So
Oh my God.
those guys knew what they were doing even back then. So, and it's just quite interesting, that the whole van thing. Obviously things have changed now.
Yeah.
And, that's all gone.
Do you wish sometimes that we had it that way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I think it and now I think unfortunately, and maybe I could be guilty of this. Sometimes
You grab my cord.
you know,
Okay,
you
keep going.
you can put out a record and or release it now, and not really gone through that record properly, listened to it and checked if it's really that good. So unfortunately for me and a lot of other people, there's so many promos now out there, and you're getting mailed them. You can't listen to them all. So
I
so
do.
many good
I
records
do.
get lost.
I try. No, she fights. I have a wife, and like everybody has family, and I go through 2 days of promos, and it takes a lot of time now. It used to be so easy. I'd have my records,
Yeah.
and I would go to my go-to.
Yeah.
It's not like
Well,
that.
the other good thing is you'd go to the record shop, and you know they'd have your pile. They roughly knew what you liked to play. So I'd go to Black Market or Uptown, or that's in London, and they'd roughly know, and also a few exclusives as well that you might be lucky to have.
Put that aside for full intention,
Well,
because we know
hopefully,
they're into that sound.
Yeah.
Or they would ask me if I had some promos with me. Can we get like 10 for some of the guys? Jazzy M.
Yeah, and that's it. And
I'm going to do that.
so that's the only thing now. So a lot used to get weeded out. So a lot of the better records would get through, and that's the only problem I think at the moment. There's so much. There's so many records there.
Well, you know what I do, right? So I'll play something for 15 seconds and I go, hated it! Next! Hated it! And my assistant Sarah saying, we love our promo sessions, Lenny, because she sat with me through it and she'll be like, take that off. That's good. Horrible. So we must all do the same.
Though, do you know what? I don't know if you're the same. Sometimes I've not liked a record. I won't actually put I don't like it, but I've dismissed it, a record I've been sent. And then I'll be in a club, and the DJ, for example, might be playing it before I go on or go after, and you think, that's the record I got sent. That sounds really good in the club. Sometimes records just sound so much better in the club than they do at home. And I then have to go back and check it and have another listen and think, yeah, this is really good.
How about this one? You've made a record. You know it's right. You've heard it in a record shop. But you heard your record played out, and you saw the crowd go crazy.
Yeah.
And the A&R people ask you, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "It's my record." They're like, "What?" Right? How many times did that happen?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
didn't really believe you did it, or you did a record you weren't sure about it.
Yeah, well, a typical situation was probably, I remember when we remixed Duke, So In Love With You.
Great record.
Thank you.
Here.
We actually asked if we could remix it for DMC because we have the multi-track. I heard the original, and I loved the original. I still thought it was good, but I thought, could we put our own take on it? So we did that, and then that was for DMC. Pete Tong then played it on the Friday, and I didn't know he was going to play it, but until he played it, I wasn't actually sure. I thought, I don't think I've done enough on this record.
You didn't
And
feel
I
it's
kept
right,
saying
right?
to John, I don't know if it's right. I don't know if we've done enough. But then when Pete Tong plays, I think, no, it sounds right now. She's just got this seal of approval. You think it must be right then if Pete Tong's playing it. So, yeah.
In those days, I used to make reel-to-reels for Tony Humphries. This is
Did you?
Yeah, I used to make reels. Like we bring stuff so early. All of us, Teddy Douglas, everybody would be, you know, even before an acetate. I used to give him my reels here. Same with Louis Vega.
Brilliant.
And we were all playing off reel-to-reel. But would I take it to go back to that? I would take it to even carry the flight cases again because I loved it so much. But my back says no.
Yeah.
But my brain says yes.
Yeah.
So, give us a vision of your kit in the beginning of what you were working with when you were started out.
For producing?
Correct.
Well, John and I would have an S900 and an S1000. M1 keyboard.
Akai.
Akai, yeah, Akai, sorry. Akai,
they don't know what we're saying. Like,
yeah.
But let's say like this S900, sounds like Mercedes. S1000.
You're right, actually, yeah.
You gotta
now I sound like a real geek.
No.
Yeah, no.
For those who don't know, those are Akai samplers. Go ahead. S900 is before the 950, S1000 before the 1100.
Yeah. These were samplers, and they were just so important to us to make house records. And then we'd have a 909 drum machine. And what else would you have? The M1 keyboard and a Juno 106, which is kind of the stable diet of bass lines for us. And Juno 106, like Inner City,
Rolling,
Big Fun, all those sort of records were all made, I would say, on that. So they had all the classic house sounds. But that was, and then we had a Sound Tracks Megas desk, which was great. And of course, all analog. But we would buy stuff all the time. We'd hear a new sound and we'd think, where's that sound come from? We'd find out what keyboard made it and we'd go and buy it. We'd just spend 500 quid like that just for that sound. Probably
sound?
Just one sound. We'd probably only use that once or twice. Think, God, we couldn't do that now. You couldn't just, now you could just download the sound that you wanted. But then, so we'd end up with just banks and banks of keyboards. We just had so many. So we loved it. Absolutely
Favorite keyboard of all time?
Favorite keyboard all time is for me is a Prophet 5.
There you go.
Because it's got all my foot. Well, as
Dave
you know,
Smith,
I'm going to say D-Train. It's got all the D-Train sounds on it, as that's where your connection is, obviously.
All per those sounds. Yep.
Yeah, I loved all that.
De facto.
Yeah.
And what happened was in the late 80s and 90s when Korg was developing the M1 and stuff, and where were they going to?
Yeah.
Those keyboards, sampling those sounds and then affecting them, and in essence, if you were just coming into the game, you didn't know about Prophet, so you picked up a Korg M1, you hear those sounds, or D50.
Well, I didn't, and you know, it was my partner John who knew more about the keyboard side because he's more from the keyboard side of things. He's the more the musician side. And
now
so
we know who the musician is.
Yeah. See, so John, you know.
John, come here. Now.
Yeah. Where is it? And so he, you know, that's what makes a good team. We both learned off each other over the years, both in both ways, which is great. And but yeah, he was very much so. Our entry level was really Juno 106. My first keyboard I personally bought was a DX 100, a Yamaha DX 100, small thing.
Yep, black and green.
Yeah. So it had the solid, what was called solid bass, and the Doug Lazy bass was on there.
The FM.
For those
that know, if you listen to Let It Roll, that bass sound, that's a Yamaha sound, and what they would use is called FM synthesis, which is different than the Roland.
Yeah.
Roland was more of an analog. You wouldn't say FM, more like a boxier sound. An FM sound is very bzzz, like that humming sound in it.
Yeah.
But Yamaha knew a way to make it where these guys were using that sound a lot.
Yeah. We started, what we started to do is mix the two. So in I Love America and Duke and most of our records, our early records, we had two layers. We had a TX-81Z bass, which is the same as the keyboard I was saying, the 100. We had the solid bass for the raspy top end, and then we had a Juno sub underneath. So, because that gave a lot more low end. And probably the records we remixed of yours, we probably put those on there as well.
I'm going to say.
We had our little formula, and we kind of roughly knew certain sounds work well together. And so we had kind of analog and FM
So
together.
take us into the studio. So the day in the studio at those days were, I'm assuming like what most of us would do is drum programming. Who starts with what? Coffee begins or whatever. After coffee.
Yeah, always a coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
Yeah, we're very similar. With John and I, we kind of. I mean, when John comes in, I normally know what I want us to do. The ideas are in my head, and I can hear it and whatever. We'll put some drums down. John will always put some keepers. He's brilliant at bass lines. He's like my Bernard Edwards, I suppose. He's very good, and once we get the bass lines together and we get a groove, to us it's all about the groove first of all. Once you've got, as long as that is rocking, you feel like you want to dance to it, you're halfway there, and then is getting the riff, which is the hardest bit, is making sure the riff is there.
The top line riff.
Yeah, the top line riff, and if you can get that, and then you get also a hooky vocal, you need those three bits to all come together, and that's where I think some people go wrong when they're trying to make that record that has that kind of bit of everything, and it becomes it's either too basic or too commercial. We try and get the lot. If you can get the lot,
coolness factor.
Coolness, that's the most important thing.
That's the key.
We try and keep everything in a minor key wherever we can, but
not always possible.
At the same time, I'm terrible because I like a lot of uplifting stuff. So I'm always saying, John, let's just push it a little bit. So John always does something so we kind of get a balance where we get the minor and the major kind of feeling, kind of working together, whether it's the vocals doing it or the keyboard, and it's and that's how we manage to get that kind of sad but uplifting feeling at the same time. We don't get it on every record. We wish we could, but we try and do it. Yeah.
Well, this is the question that people will probably ask. Like, if you get, let's say, Jocelyn Brown, a vocal like that, Ultra, any of those type of and it's written in a major key.
Yeah.
Now, we've all been in this remix game where we're sitting there remixing and trying to come up with these ultra cool chords. What happens when you can't? What did you do?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's when we try and drop the chords if we can, and we'll try and keep it to a single note, and then we'll put a fifth on it, so it has that kind of... I think we might have done that with Duke.
Yeah.
So in Love With You.
If I remember that correctly.
We kept it, and that's why after when we finished, I kept thinking we haven't done enough.
That's right.
There's no real chords on there. There's just stabs, and but the emotion was still there. As long as you get the emotion, it doesn't always have to have that chord. But yeah, we try and we call it. We try and have that clash feel, what we call a good clash. So it sort of sounds a little bit wrong, but it has a...
Hardest remix you've ever worked on?
We've had a few.
Okay, one of them. Yeah, what they call recall. Yeah. My friend Gladys used to call me all the time. Recall.
Oh, I've got to tell you a story about Gladys.
Gladys, are you listening?
Yeah.
Don't story.
Let's talk about Gladys.
Yeah.
Gladys Pizarro from Strictly Rhythm.
I'll have to come back to one where we found... There's been ones where we found have been hard to do. But we've managed it. We haven't done it. But sorry, I've got to jump ahead to when we had to remix your record. I got the Powerhouse
featuring Duane Harden. What you need.
Yeah, and when we heard it, we thought, this is brilliant. This is really good record. What you've done is brilliant. And so we put our take on it.
And by the way, my wife just said, say it. She didn't like it.
Oh. Yeah, but she's not going to. She's your,
my missus said to me,
she will say she likes it.
Kept saying to me over and over, you keep working on the same record.
Oh, I see. She didn't like your track. I thought you meant the remix.
No, my version. The whole thing. She didn't like it. It was a joke. But it's always an inside joke. But let me say this before Gladys called you. Every night, Gladys would come in with Duane. Duane would cut the vocal.
Yeah.
And then she'd go to the office next day, she'd say, oh, it's great, or whatever she said that night. But I'm going to call you tomorrow, right? I go, yeah. The phone would ring around 11:30. Yo, we're coming in tonight. That was 2 weeks in succession. She'd come in every night.
Wow.
Recall the vocal. Oh, you know how many times? You have no idea how many times I recall. Then Simon, your old manager, calls me when we go to license that record. Calls me before he calls Finkelstein and says, I'm going to license the record. Within 2 weeks, I get a 4-page novel on changes and recalls.
Oh my
So this record was Recall City.
So many times.
By the time I was finished with it, I hated it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the record. So
honest,
tell me about your story.
We can all be like that. Sometimes we've had enough. We don't want to hear the record until 3-4 weeks time afterwards. But yeah, going back to yours,
Gladys,
Gladys. I mean, she is just the best. She's just the best, even though she made you do all those recalls.
It was worth it. I always said to her it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, and well, this is it, because they've got. I think it's better that everybody comes together to get the best product, and if you believe in them, like Gladys, she knows her stuff.
Oh,
so it's not like as if I disagree.
Record. No more gold records than that. I don't think anybody's got as many gold records in house music than her.
No, I think
for signing
I think
records.
she should have more recognition as well for what she's done.
100%. I've always said that.
And
so tell us
but
your
it's
story
funny
about
when we remixed Powerhouse. We were really pleased, and of course it was our first trip. We were talking about the writing trip when we came to.
Oh, it was around that time.
Yeah, it was around the same time, and we walked into our office the first time. And Mark picked us up in this limo. We thought, God, we've made it. We got to New York, and we've got this limo sat outside JFK, big long stretch, and take us to Strictly Rhythm. And the first thing she said, I'm pissed, she said, and I've never heard that term.
You thought me pissed like drunk?
I thought she meant she didn't like it, and because when we walked in, we thought she didn't like our remix. She said, because we were talking about, she said, your remix, I'm pissed, she said, and John and I, in our English way, thought, oh, she hates it, and then she goes, this is the best, and she was like really excited, but I thought, oh no, when you think you've done the best job you can. But luckily,
I remember Simon sent it to us because I had to listen to it to approve it, because that was up to me.
Yeah.
So she called me in and she said, "Listen to it." I said, "Let's listen." So she put it on. I'm like, "Okay, I hear it. Sounds cool. Sounds like Full Intention. Drums are swinging." I'm going, "Yeah." The bass line sounds similar to mine. Then I later find out you told me that you recut string sections for the record.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. We had a 10-piece string section we were using quite a lot then. Back then we had the budget, and we used a 10-piece section. And the funny thing about that is that when the Powerhouse record, was going to go on Top of the Pops, Simon called me and said, "We've got a problem." I didn't realise that with musician union rates, because when you use string players from England, they have to be paid a certain amount of money.
I remember that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think they're 250 each for the actual session, and then 250 if that then goes onto television. That work gets used on television or in a video. He then realised to put them on Top of the Pops would cost him 10 times £250.
25,000.
And he had to decide whether this record, whether it was worth. Could he afford, as a record company, because Defected Records had only just started.
I remember.
Could he actually afford to do it? But luckily he did, because we were like, oh no. So ever since that record, we went down to just six players and just made sure they tracked.
Right.
But that's how we got
I
down.
forgot about that, because that's right, he told us. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we can't, I'm not going to be able to put this record on. I'm like, what do you mean? You got to get it on Top of the Pops. You crazy?
I mean, that was the pinnacle back then. To get your record on Top of the Pops.
You hit it.
You hit it. You knew you'd done something right. So, so I was really pleased that did...
Not only that, but also bear in mind, around the same time in those years, they remixed Ultra Tape Free, which went on to be another big record.
Yeah.
For Strictly, and it was A&M in those days. Was it A&M?
That was one of Simon Dunmore's last signings for A&M. And
he did the remix Free. Yeah, not the original. Move to Swing did the original version of Free.
Yeah.
And they did the version that hit in England.
And then we went on to do Found a Cure, which we did change it up, and we put live strings on and everything for Found a Cure. But Simon actually went with 2 versions, 2 videos, 2 versions for Found a Cure for the UK. He done the original, and then he done ours. So
why did he do that?
I don't know. I think it just to see how it goes. I think the budgets then was a lot easier.
He had money to throw around.
Yeah.
He had money to throw around everywhere in those days.
Yeah, but that was good. And Barbara Tucker, did you? That was one of yours, wasn't it? The Barbara Tucker?
No, Barbara Tucker was Freddie Turner. Stop Playing My Mind.
Yeah.
That was Freddie Turner and Jason.
I think you produced that.
No, I didn't produce that. No, that was Freddie Turner and Jason Whiplash in that time. Whiplash and Turner.
Yeah. Because that sounded like a record you would have.
Yeah, it was similar
made.
to what I would. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So.
And it's funny because when Freddie was making it, I remember hearing the demo and going, "It's something I would have done."
Yeah. It did sound like uplifting. it had the right ingredients. So yeah.
So who touches the console when you guys are working?
We both do.
We both are hands-on.
Very hands-on. I couldn't sit back and let someone else do it all. To me, it's all about feel and what have you. We'd always, if we had a live strings back then and live horns and a lot of so much was live back then, live guitar, a lot. I would get someone in at the very end when we were ready and it was all arranged and everything, and I'd say, right, you can touch anything but don't touch the bass, don't touch the drums, I'm happy with
Don't touch that!
Yeah, and they would just make those strings sound, because when you're working with live strings, there's a certain
just
technique.
work on the midsection.
Yeah.
Do not touch the bottom. You do not know what that is.
I would get someone in, he'd come into my studio, a guy called David Snell, he was very good, he'd come in, I'd go up to Uptown and Black Market and buy some records, come back and
listen to
it with fresh ears, and that was it. And nowadays I just take, when John and I finish with something we've done, I'll take it up to London on my laptop, plug it into the studio up there, and there's a guy we use, James, and he will spend about half an hour on it, because he'll just tweak it and just make sure it just sounds good. It's always good to get that last pair of ears and check, because sometimes there's something really obvious you've missed.
Doing things then and doing things now is full intention. What's different now?
It's a lot easier now because we can recall everything so quickly. We can work on 2 projects, 3 projects in one day.
Flip-flop, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love the feel of having the desk and the analog desk, and that is great, but in all honesty, the quality is so much better and punchier now, and John and I have always been those sort of people that we're always trying to think ahead. We always like to get new equipment. We've never been, let's hark back to this or that. We still have a few items in the studio we've kept, and we will still use old analog items, because there's some sounds you just can't get on soft synths.
No.
The FM things we were talking about.
Big time.
We still use the DX100, or the equivalent of that, TX-A1Z. We use that for certain things. There's an Oberheim we've got. There's a few little things that we'll do.
Want to know one of my favorite records of yours?
Sure.
Weekend.
Ah, all right. Yeah.
Weekend. And I love that record. We loved it then. We still love it now. How did that record come about?
Yeah, well, that was funny. I got Shenna in and a guy called Xavier had done some vocals for Full Intention in the past. Got them in, and I had an idea, there's a hook line at the end of an Oliver Cheaton record, and I really like the hook line. So I got them to re-sing that, and just over some chords, and that was it. Then I couldn't think what I wanted to do with it, so I just left it. Got on with producing this group I was going to produce. I wanted to get into doing some more band stuff. When I finished producing that group,
right,
a year later, I went back, and suddenly all the ideas that I wanted for the Weekend track just all came in straight away. And it was just like that.
Bam.
Yeah. So it just shows that sometimes records can take a year to make, except obviously you sometimes need to, if you haven't got the ideas to execute it really well, just leave it and then come back to it when you have.
Gotcha.
We can't all wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning going, right, that's it.
I hated that record so much. I loved. I mean, I was hearing that. I knew where you got the influence, because you can hear "Get Down Saturday Night."
Yeah. I mean, we cleared it with him.
He rest in peace, Oliver Cheaton.
Oh
too.
yeah,
He's gone too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's very sad that, but we were very pleased that he cleared the publishing side of it. So that was good.
That's the difference of today than yesterday. Yesterday you can get away with cheeky bootlegs. Now you put something up, it gets flagged right away. So it's hard to try to get around the pirating thing.
Yeah.
Where you could take a chance and hope that it you don't get nicked. Now it's like, they got me.
No, I know. It's always a grey area, because John and I would go through Tracksource, you go through the charts like you do. God, did they clear that? They couldn't have cleared. Really? This is massive. And
the whole song, you hear the whole song, you're like.
But we've had situations recently where we remixed Rocker's Revenge, Walking on Sunshine, and cleared it with Arthur Baker, and we didn't have. All we had was my vinyl copy, and I had dubbing on Sunshine and all, so I could take all
Took
the
the
little
pieces,
bits,
right?
all the pieces. We replayed the bass line, stuff like that. We then went to clear it, but Arthur had sold. Well, someone else owns the rights.
I
to
thought
that.
Warlock bought them.
Oh,
and then
maybe.
Warlock, and somebody else bought
But
Warlock.
they wanted something like $3,000, but that just doesn't equate, because what you make from track source these days and Beatpool would not get anywhere near that. So you then think, now we're sitting on something we can't do. But because we've done the correct way of clearing it, you
They
think
can't put it out.
would have been easy if we just whacked it out and said nothing. But obviously we don't. But that's a real shame. So we're not sure what we're going to do with that. All we could do is play it out, and people sort of on the dance floor, and that's it. But we're stuck, and we've got a few records like that. We've got another situation which is similar. So you try and do the right thing, but if someone we're lucky now that the records we've made over the last 20 years, people have sampled us, and they come to us and they say, and we'll be fair. We'll 50-50 or whatever it is.
Yeah, because you want to get it out.
Yeah.
You want to get them. It's better to do something than do nothing.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with the people at the Eiffel Tower,
Yeah.
they're corporate. They're not thinking
Yeah.
on that level.
No.
Oh, just pay us. We'll pay.
Yeah.
Like, we don't. There's not enough digital downloading. For
Yeah. And you're thinking, how can someone get around asking for that sort of money when clearly you can't even get anywhere close? Even if you had a Beatport number 1 and a track source number 1 together, you still couldn't get to that figure.
There's no way.
This is crazy. So not everyone loses, which is a shame.
Ben Max says the Glitterbox remix is fire too.
Oh, thank you.
All the way. Yep.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to remix it, but to keep it really cool, because I knew it was a it turned into a commercial.
Well, because it sounded so 80s the way you made it sound like. Because I remember
Yeah.
I got the vinyl of it.
It's the first time I've remixed a record and slowed it down.
Yeah,
I think
sounds
the
good.
original was, I think I made it 127, and I think I took it down to 116. And but what's really interesting, the moment you start taking these disco records back to a slower tempo, you really get you can get a really good groove going. And I made it just so I could play like early sets, and DJs could play early sets. And Glitterbox wise was great. So when John and I played Glitterbox last year,
Ibiza, right?
and in Ministry of Sound, it was great because we could play it early doors, especially if we asked, will you go on first? Like, great, because I can play all those records at about 116, and it fitted. And that's where I tested that out first before I actually re-released it. And I said to Simon, can I call it the Glitterbox mix? We couldn't give it to Simon because it's owned by someone else.
Right, because wasn't it Universal had that?
Well, it's Universal, Universal and I Industries,
Right.
and then when the term finished, it went over. I sold it to Ultramoda, which is
Oh, that's right, yeah.
a Dutch company who they look after all our Full Intention catalogue and my old catalogue as well, and they're really, really good. But so Simon said, yeah, fine, Glitterbox. That was that. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that.
So now moving forward, I get a call a couple weeks ago. My friend Mike says, are you going to be in town, New York? I'm like, yeah, why? Well, I'm going to let you tell you why he's here in New York City. He's here in New York City, not just to come visit me, but he's here for some serious important business. What's going on today?
This
weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Well,
Easter weekend.
I've been lucky enough to be nominated, 3 nominations, at the IMA Awards, and that's called the Independent Music Awards, and that's
Big
at
thing, guys.
the Lincoln Centre tomorrow, Sunday.
Are you wearing a tuxedo?
No, do you know what?
Saturday.
Saturday. It's Saturday. Yeah, sorry, it's Saturday. I'm getting my days confused.
Tomorrow's Saturday. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's Good Friday.
Jet lag.
Yeah, it's fine.
And so no, we thought, because before John and I we went to the Grammys, we had a nomination for that. We dressed up with our tuxedo.
Yeah, it's actually
really smart. And as probably most people, DJs and producers will know, we spend most of our time in casual clothes. And to get dressed up is like, oh great, I can actually wear a tie. This is brilliant, because we don't need a tie in the studio. But no, they're saying it's sort of wear what you like, casual, which I've got to.
So you got to wear.
I'm actually going to put a shirt on, believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but that is basically for a group called Midnight Mystery Club, and the main guy, he's based in LA. David is based in LA. He came to my studio about a year and a half ago, and it was Simon Marling who put us together from Shapeshifters.
Oh, yeah.
He came down to just do a bit of writing, and he played a demo to me of this track, which he said, "Do you like Empire of the Sun?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I love all that." And he played it to me, this track. And I said, "I love this. This is really good." He said, "Would you like to produce an album with me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to. Absolutely." So I just did it around my Full Intention stuff. In the evening, I do a bit, and the thing is, I work in London, and he worked in LA, and we just literally just sent parts backwards and forwards. He'd send over his, the song and the main bones of it, and then I would do stuff here. Or sometimes I'd do a backing track and send it over to him. He's an immensely talented guy, and we only found out about a month and a half ago that we've been nominated. So we've been nominated for Best Producers, Best Album, and Best Song.
Wow.
From the album. So, but I don't care if we don't win. I don't mind. It's just being nominated.
He came and saw a lot of luminaries in New York. Saw pictures with Benji Candelario, Harry Soto.
That was a good night last
He's been
time.
running around town, hanging out at Ashton Simpson. Nick Ashton's no longer alive, but he's at Ashton Simpson's club. He's making the rounds.
Oh, that was good.
He's making the rounds.
Do you know, that was a last minute thing, really, Lenny. Otherwise, you should have come and joined us. So.
I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything about it. I saw Benji drinking, and I says, "Oh, I get it. I know it's going on at the party."
He's a lovely guy. We had a really good laugh. So I think he's going to be sending over a few tracks and stuff. But
Benji's starting to get serious again. He's been putting in. I'm assuming told you he's putting the kit back together and everything.
Yeah, we were talking more about the artists we could see going up, because this is an open mic night that Valerie Simpson does, or Ashwin's up there, and we were really knocked out by the quality. It was just like, there's certainly no X Factor.
No,
there's a really
you
good
hear
artist.
real singers, real singer,
yeah.
right?
Going back to what he said, but I'd like to have a proper chat with him, because it's great to see him, and it's so good to see people who I've looked up to over the years, and all sort of coming back out and doing stuff and being current again and everything, including myself, because I think we're all in agreement that when EDM came in, a lot of us got kind of sort of pushed to the side. You're thinking, is anybody not playing house music anymore?
You mean wheelchairs like retirement? That's what it felt like for a minute.
And it's nothing against EDM, it's just unfortunately it made things very confusing, because for us we were like, and it's like, whoa. So and it's so great that house music is back in, and it's good, and it's great to see people, like-minded people doing the same thing.
For those, I'm going to say this house music thing, we've got to go back to Chicago and everything, but house music is, to me and some of the people that I know, is disco's revenge, because a lot of it's based on disco music. So we're always going back to disco, and the cycle seems to be showing at this stage. 20 years ago was the 90s. 20 years previous to that was the 70s.
Yeah.
Now we're here 20 years forward, and we're just about back in house music.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, it was a friend of ours, Arga Heller, who called me up about 2012. He said, Mike, you need to reinvent your sound. You need to go back to just make deep house and records like you did in the 90s. I said, are you sure? What?
That's the same thing I was told. Same thing.
Yeah. So, what? Exactly. But people don't want to hear that again, do they? And he said, no, trust me. So that's how we started it. And he said, look, I will get you the deals. And he placed them with labels like Swara and Off Recordings, all these kind of cooler labels that were coming in to get us back into a kind of the cool sector. There's a few labels I still would have liked to have gone on to, but unfortunately it didn't take. But and slowly but surely, so we kind of worked it from a deep house thought, knowing that probably in about 2 years' time, deep house will then sort of merge more into house, just house, which is now where we're back, where we started from. So
6 years later,
crazy, but it's and it's great. And now I feel as if like, right, I'm on top of this.
Do you really feel like you're on top?
Yeah, I do. I'm not saying.
Besides working out and how fabulous you look and everything else, because I constantly keep seeing these people write, "Oh, he's got everything going." I keep watching. They joke with all of us. Don't you age?
Yeah.
Why don't you age? Tell us the secret why you don't age. What's the reason that keeps you going, getting up every day?
Yeah.
Doing this?
Exactly.
Besides sleeping, of course.
It's mad, really, because you think to yourself, well, we're up till 5 in the morning some mornings.
Correct.
Our lifestyle's slightly different to probably most other people's. So we should be aging a lot quicker. So I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the same thing.
I think it's just because we're in a very young. We're playing to younger people, and maybe we're trying to keep ourselves young. So we, I don't know.
You know, pop music was made for an age group of 16 to 25.
Yeah.
Correct.
And how it's changed.
That's what they said to us.
Mm.
So after 25, you were already pretty much old, right?
Yeah.
What happened now?
I know.
DJs are double the age of that and more.
Yeah. I know.
And playing to 18, 19. And here's the crazy part. You walk into a club, you hear a song like Cheryl Lynn.
Yeah.
Got to be real, a real commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
And 19 and 20-year-old kids are screaming to a record like that. How's this possible?
Yeah, it's funny
That's
you should
not
say.
their music.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, John and I played for Reach Up, which is a night put on by Andy Smith and Nick Hawkes.
Yep, Nick, yeah, remember him.
And Chrissy Kybosh. And they said, we did a track with Nick Hawkes recently, which is about to get released. Anyway, so to come down, we're going to do a video down there, and just come play for an hour. And could you play some vinyl? So I had to kind of dig out some vinyl. Went down there thinking, oh, it'll be a certain age group, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't believe how many kids were in front of us. All completely into, not just, I don't know, disco records, the non-obvious ones, and records like One Is to the Juju, Every Way But Loose.
Wow.
And I just watched them already dance. I said, and I wish I could just go home and go and get another lot of records, because I couldn't believe how open-minded these kids were. You know, they're all about 18, 19, 20, 21. How do they know these records? And I can only assume it's their parents they've played.
It's the internet. The internet has allowed you to research, because their parents were dancing to Taking Ecstasy and house music.
Yeah, we've gone back
we're going back to a generation when we were kids.
Yeah. And Fiona was with me, and we both was really puzzled. We left that place. It was like a warehouse. We left it. We just really see. Did that really happen? Yeah, and it's a great feeling, because that's what it's all about. I mean, it's great. I don't care who I play to, what age group, but it's lovely when you see a younger age group, that young, really, really getting into something that's not banging. It's not EDM. It doesn't have this, huge breakdowns but it was like they were at a rave, but except they were dancing to stuff that had good grooves and synth hooks and amazing, really, really good. So
you know what? Then I'm already back into making disco.
Good to hear it.
Making disco.
Yeah,
full on disco again. So it was a dream for me in the beginning.
It was
my dream in the beginning. It was my beginning, my dream. What was that dream for you?
In terms of the dream for me originally was always to make a record that people would dance to in 10, 15 years time.
Still already hit that one already.
And that was always trying to make something that's classic, but to be able to still pull from the disco thing, because to me that was, without that I don't think I'd be here making records.
Prelude Records, Casablanca, Acco, Atlantic, it goes on and on.
Yeah. And West End, all those.
West End, South Soul, Philly International.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing records, and I play it in my car all the time. I'm listening to old stuff, and if I find something that I've never heard before, it's even better. An old record. It's like how come I missed that?
How did you miss treasury? It's like a treasure, right?
Yeah. And I was that kid at 15 going to the Lyceum in Leicester Square in London, and I'd go to hear a guy called Greg Edwards, and he would come on and he would play the most upfront records, and that's when I first heard D-Train, You're the One for Me, but it was the instrumental. It was all about that, and I was just so blown away with the way these synths were working in this track. It was incredible, and you're just thinking, this is another level. This is complete. You know, this is taking disco to another, and that's where for me, when I could hear, you know, and I draw my ideas from those sort of records. So it's just very clever records, very ahead of their time as well. I would say the Prelude sign, and also thank you to Francois Kevorkian for
Francois.
Yeah. So when you got something from him
You
or Chet
release,
Pettibone, you're
yeah.
like, oh my god, you know, these are good. So yeah.
Well, I have to say, it's been incredible.
Yeah, likewise.
He's
then.
an
It's good
icon. He's a legend now. He's in the Legends Club.
Oh, you're being too nice. I wish.
He's in the Legends Club, yes, and he's doing it all over again. And doing it the right way, with quality. That's the most important part. He's doing it with quality. He's not just schlepping some stuff and throwing it out there and hoping to God it sticks. He's actually trying to make it stick. Give us a couple of the few new projects that are coming up, and then we'll wrap up because people are getting tired. It's getting late in England.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
They're like, this is going on too long.
I think the record that we're excited about now, we've got a new track on Sulfuric.
Oh yeah, I got that. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Just came out. Yep.
Yeah. So we're very excited.
Name of that? Tell the people.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that because it's suddenly gone out of my head.
I can't think
the jet
of
lag is kicking in big time.
I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, Google it.
Hang on,
It's
I
not
got
bad. Yeah, that's really
I
bad.
got it. Go ahead.
Shall I do it?
No, I got it. I got it in my promos right here.
Oh,
It just so
that's
happens.
really bug me now.
I have it.
That is so funny. Hang on, I'll find
Well,
it.
tell us about the record.
Yeah. Anyway, originally we thought we would be doing it for Defected, but Defected said no. This is perfect for Sulfuric.
So did Brian sign that record? Who's involved?
Well, it's a cross between Brian and Andy at Defected and Simon. So I'm looking at
It's simply living.
Simply Living. How to forget? Yeah. Yeah. So and we're excited. It's great to see Sulfuric back, and it's great to First of all, we were a bit worried. We think this is a bit too techie for
Yes,
Sulfuric.
that's what I first heard.
And I said, "You sure?" And I said to Brian, we rang Brian up. John and I said, "Are you definitely sure you want this record? You sure?" He said, "I love it." He said, "I want it." So I said, "Okay," but I said, "As long as you're sure." And so that kind of.
Luckily I have it. So it's in my show for House FM this week.
In my defence, we've been making so many records recently. John and I, we're trying to keep track on what's where and who's this and that. It's been a bit of a.
Get your hands on the Sulfuric tracks.
Simply Living.
Full intention, with a good intention. It's actually the track behind me.
And then, and we've been playing that on Bump and Hustle with John this Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Bump and Hustle. 28 years now? I played for them in the early 90s.
Yeah, you used to play them a lot. Yeah, we haven't played for them for about 10 years, something like that. So you're really looking for Bob Povey's got a good thing going on down there. I've got 4 hours to get from Heathrow to Bournemouth. Hopefully that will happen.
This is very cool, this track. I liked it. I saw it coming on a Defected promo machine last week. They just put it out. I'm like, there it is. And I'm just so happy I'm seeing you. So this is this, and that is that, and Good Friday, and Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, yeah.
And Mr. Michael Gray with his Easter eggs and his hunting. He's got to go tomorrow and collect, hopefully he'll collect not one, but maybe 3 good awards.
Well, that would be nice.
Which would be very nice to be back home to the mother country.
Oh.
Are you going to get your BBM soon from the Queen?
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, MBE.
MBE.
Norman Harris had. Norman J.
Oh, yeah, but
Sir Pete Tom.
but they're legends. They're legends.
Hey, you get there.
I don't think they give them for producers, do they? No, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But no, I'm quite happy for 3 nominations. That'll do me.
And the Grammy nomination, what year was that?
That was about 9. That was 2005. We were nominated for George Michael's Amazing. And yeah.
Come on, people. Get your computers out. Work hard. Eat right. You'll look like Mike. You'll make records. Come on. You can do it. And I'm going to thank you Michael's
Oh,
way.
cheers, Lenny.
We love
Lovely
you
to
all.
speak to
People
you.
are writing in like crazy, and thank you again for taking
Oh,
your
you're
busy
welcome.
day.
Thank you. It was lovely to,
I'm glad
hook
to
up
do
with
this.
you.
And I'm gonna have to say goodbye to all of you because I want to enjoy the weekend, and they want to enjoy the weekend. I'm keeping them here in their room.
Oh, I'm so thirsty.
Let me
Thank
ask you
you.
this. Did you ever go to Westminster Abbey?
Cheers.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, it's great.
You asked really good questions. Thank you. That makes such a difference.
Well, the thing is, I know you.
I know it does. I suppose it does. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're sitting with people, it's like you sitting with Francois. You would know. You would say to him, the record of featuring. You would ask. I couldn't ask you that question. But if I was sitting with Francois, I would say, when you were at Prelude, Michael Gomes and you were all together, and Martin Schlechter,
I remember
when that record came in, who made the decision to sign that record? I would ask Francois
Because
that.
I would love to sit down with half these people, and because I'm such an anorak when it comes to.
You didn't see anything?
Do you know what? This trip has made me realise how bad I am in London, that I haven't been and done any of the stuff.
What's
I'm
that,
going
babe?
around here going, oh, it's amazing, we must see this, we must see that.